Hey there, Sifu Slim here, coming to you live from the beach in the morning, and the question came in: what type of sitting is bad for you? Let's examine that. So I'm the author of Sedentary Nation. It's a book that looks at the activity: standing, running, lifting, climbing, long distance walking and running, hunting, crawling, everything upright walking entities did since the dawn of time. So I considered that, and then I considered the farming communities and all the work they did. Lots of repetitive stress type of work, which can result in repetitive stress injuries, especially if there's inflammation involved and dysfunction. So put those two things in your mind and let that marinate for a little bit. When you go from there, you go to the industrial age. Man as a machine, man pushing things, man and woman sewing things. So when I say man, I mean mankind. Sewing things, using looms, making rope, using their hands, their body, many times with their head tilted forward and their back tilted forward. Rarely do we do activities where we have our back in extension and leaning back the other way. So that's a really important thing to think about. So if you think about a hockey puck, so put a hockey puck down here, or a round disc of cheese, or any type of flat disc, and you put them and you stack them on each other. Now in between, I want you to put a strong piece of bread. So there's your strong piece of bread in between the hockey pucks or the discs. And that's the way your spine works. And now imagine all the curves in your back. So the curves are there to absorb the force that we put into our spine. And we put that force in there, and our body with 2 legs and 2 feet is able to stand. One of the few animals in the world that can stand on 2 legs and balance, and we can do it for very long lengths of time. So think about that for a minute and see if you can come up with some good questions and some good answers about the idea: what type of sitting is good for us? You had a chance to think about that? Think a little bit more. So now that you've thought about that, what are your thoughts? Compressing the spine where that piece of bread doesn't come back to its normal position. So it can be compressed. It could be compressed on an angle, usually front, but sometimes back. So when you think about people working in a loom or working with their hands in a carpentry trade or grinding things, sawing things, oftentimes leaning forward. So we get the head, which can weigh 7 to 12 pounds, and we get that tilted forward. So there's a lot of pressure here on the neck, on the spine. When you put pressure on anywhere in the body, there is fallout or functionality, increase in functionality in other areas of the body. If you do nice things to your feet, they may translate to doing nice things to your brain, to your head, to your hands, everything else. It's just the way it works. One thing is connected to the other. The foot bone is connected to the ankle bone. The ankle bone is connected to the shin bone. And so think about that song that comes from our youth. Probably, I'm guessing that was probably a late 1800, early 1900 song in the English language, and maybe they have that in other languages too, because that's the way cartoons work. They translate them in every other language. So now that you've thought about the spine and the compressing piece of bread, which is the disc, heavy weightlifting, squats, weights on the shoulders, clean and jerk, all those types of things, or just working by lifting things, what does that do to your body? Well, if you're putting weight down into the spine, heavy weight repeatedly, doing that and not allowing that disc to get back to its proper position, or maybe it just doesn't want to get back to its proper position because you keep compressing it, and it wants to be compressed because that's where it's going, and you've taken that hammer and you've hit that nail into the piece of wood, so now it doesn't want to expand. So it's in that piece of wood and it doesn't want to come out. That's like a nail in a piece of wood. So now we go back to the question of, is weightlifting good? Think about that for a minute. Weightlifting can be good for you if you do it the right way and your body responds the right way, and it can be detrimental to you because the disc and the ligaments, the tendons, the bones, the muscles, your whole system doesn't respond properly and doesn't go back to a position that is functional and healthful for you. So think about that. Now we go back to the original question of sitting. Let's ask the questions. Does sitting compress your discs? Yes, sitting compresses your disc. Standing can compress your disc, but if you do it the proper way and you're in extension, which means up, and your neck is in a proper position, which means it has the proper curve in it. You don't have military neck, which is like that. You want to be in a natural place where everything flows and there's no tension. That's where you want to be with the neck, and the same thing with the spine. You want to be in a place where your spine is in that proper extension and functionality. And when you bend and you're in flexion and you're in positions where you're doing a task, you don't want to do them for long durations without getting back into extension, which means the discs are extended, the spine is extended, all the connective tissue, muscles, joints, bones, tendons, ligaments, they're all in that wonderful feeling of extension. So the sitting position that's good for you is the one that allows you to be in extension for the best long duration of time. And when you're in a position where you're doing a task and you're not in that extension position and you're not balanced, and your hips and your back and your shoulders, your neck, your head, they're not in a position that's functional and physiologically and biomechanically friendly to your spine and your body, you get into compression, you start compressing your internal organs. So when you think about it, if you're over here and you're leaning over, what happens to your midsection? You're compressing things, right? You're in that compressed situation. So when you're in a compressed situation, your stomach and all of your internal organs, they're going to be compressed. And you don't want to do that for long durations of time. So when someone wrote in and they asked, what type of sitting position is good for you? Well, if you're in a sitting position for yoga and you're working on something, meditation, posture, stretching, focus, those types of things, for a period of time, that position, if it's not causing you damage, may be good for you for that period of time. And then if it improves your posture when you leave the yoga studio and you work that into your normal sitting posture, you're in more of extension, you're in balanced, you're in a physiological, biomechanical position that's good for you. Well, now we're talking about sitting that is a positive for you. If it's improving things, if it's maintaining good posture, then sitting's a good thing. How about sitting at a desk? Well, if you're in alignment, so I can't go into everything right now, but if you're in an alignment that puts your hips at a 90-degree angle, your elbows at close to a 90-degree angle when you're working on your computer or you're writing in your notebook, then that sitting position has a chance to be more friendly to your body than an unfriendly position, which is the non-biomechanically friendly sitting position. So you are sitting in a thing where you're leaning over, you've got kyphosis, you've got sway back, you've got pelvic tilt, all these things. You don't want that. So it's going to take time for you to learn where your body needs to be. Now, there are some people who just have naturally good posture and they go and they sit and they have naturally good sitting posture. My guess is that that's less than 20% of the people in the 21st century. So it's very easy to do. Have someone take a few pictures of you when you're working in minute 1 and in hour 5, and look at the difference in your sitting posture. If your sitting posture is growing weaker over the course of the day, well, then you know you have a sitting posture that without that person taking the picture, it's not going to be in a good position, and you're doing a sitting position is detrimental to you. So those are some thoughts on sitting positions and the compression of the spine and proper biomechanics when sitting and standing, and the idea that weightlifting and heavy weightlifting especially, and heavy lifting can and does normally compress the spine and normally leave weightlifters with spine problems, which translate to other problems. If you compress the spine, you have problems with your nerves, your blood flow, and they all go to your brain, so you even have aging caused by spine problems. So very interesting stuff. So I'm Sifu Slim, author of Sedentary Nation, a book for you to pick up and work through, and it's hopefully an enjoyable read for you. There's lots of great lessons. There's lots of fun anecdotes about hunting and gathering people, industrial people, farming people. The history of the human body and physical activity is in Sedentary Nation. At some point I may write part 2 of that book. So pick that one up and then look down the road for part 2. And then I wrote a book called The Aging Athlete, and it's about the sedentism, the non-physical activity of athletes before or after they leave their high-performance sports. So I've interviewed athletes before, during, and after their high-performance physical years, whether they were a high school, college, professional athlete, whether they were a person who used their body for their job, they were a cook, they were a postal worker, they were a trash collector, they were a landscaper, a contractor, a Broadway dancer. Some of those people are called industrial athletes. And then professional athletes who really push things. And I've interviewed those people and I've asked them about their physical activity. So those are some of the things I want you to consider. And take a look at those books. They're all on Amazon. They're all on my website, sifuslim.com, S-I-F-U, slim.com. So please like, thumbs up, please subscribe, and please leave your comments below. And I'm Sifu Slim, wishing you all the best in your health, happiness, and wellness. Aloha.